Hey guys, today's July 11th. As you can see, the garden's coming along great since I shot my last video a little over a month ago. So I wanted to show you how things are doing and talk about how you take care of your garden this time of the year. So I'm going to go through the garden plant by plant and just talk about where everything's at this stage. So first up is broccoli. Now I want to specifically point out how huge these plants are now and really show just how much space they're taking up. You know, they're overflowing out into the walkways. There's really no extra space anywhere in any of these beds. And I point this out because I had mentioned in some of my earliest gardening videos how important it was to not overcrowd your plants. You know, these plants, the leaves are huge, they're beautiful. Every leaf has the ability to spread out and get as much sun as it needs. If you overcrowd your plants, they're going to be all bunched up like this, and they're really not getting the sun they need, and you're just not going to get the produce at the end you're hoping for. So this is what it looks like. It's a 4x4 bed with 6 plants per bed. Also, another big benefit, these things just block the sun from down here below, and really the weeds never get a chance to get started. You know, I get a few little ones here on the edges that I got to come through and pull out, but it's really minor, very easy to maintain. Broccoli, we still don't have anything for heads yet. I'm expecting to see some heads forming fairly soon. Actually, if I went through these things in detail, I might find some already in here, but nothing really going on with the broccoli yet. Broccoli rabe, however, we went on vacation and didn't have anybody coming by to do anything on our garden while we were gone, and our broccoli rabe went crazy while we were gone. So your broccoli rabe should not have gone to flower like this unless you just aren't eating it enough. That's what happened to us. Since we weren't eating it, the plants just decided, well, we've got enough leaves, so we'll just put all of our energy into going to flower and then making seeds. So really, most of this has actually gone by. We are still eating at it a little bit, but it's just not producing leaves the way it should be. If we had kept up with this, they would still be nice and low and bushy and mostly leaves, and we'd be able to eat off them for a while, but oops, oh well. So right now I'm just kind of leaving it. You know, these flowers are really great for the pollinators, kind of pretty. I don't really have anything else to put in the garden at this point, so 2 beds of yellow broccoli rabe going on. The kale, look at this kale. These things are huge. 2 beds of them. Same thing as with the broccoli. You know, there's 6 plants in this one, and then there are 4 plants here, plus the pole beans behind it. And you just really wouldn't want to put more than that in this bed. Everything's overflowing off the side. It looks great. So we are eating off of this pretty regularly. Kale, if you haven't planted kale before or you haven't tried kale, it is the best plant to grow. It's easy to grow. It produces all year long, all the way up into the really cold beginnings of the winter. It's a really healthy plant. There's different ways to cook it. I know by itself it's not the tastiest thing ever, but we use it in soups, we use it in salads, we saute it and do stir fries and things like that. It's just a great, great plant. So kale's doing really well. Same thing with the weeds on this, except for the occasional weed along the edge. Blocks out all the sun, don't have to do any weeding. Here are pole beans. I ended up just having a couple of strips of wood left over from some of our renovation projects. So I just stuck those in the ground. Literally, you just force them down in the ground as far as you can until they're sturdy and let the pole beans go up it. And you can see that's what they're doing. So we still got a ways to go before we'll be getting any pole beans, but they're looking good. Something else I'll point out is that in the past, we get a pretty bad infestation of what are they called? Japanese beetles that eat our pole beans. And actually, I say that, there's one right there. Oop, there he goes. So we do have a few. You can see what they start to do. They start to chew holes in the leaves, like right here. We do have a few, but it seems like we're off to a better start. In the past, I've come out and there have been dozens and dozens, and I've had to try to pick them off. Usually what I do is I pick them off and I put them in a bucket of water, put a cap on it. The next day they're drowned, dump them out, do it again. But so far this year, fingers crossed, looks like we might be having a better year. Here are Brussels sprouts. Same scenario as with the kale and with the broccoli, just filling up the bed nicely, blocking out a lot of sun. These have a little bit more for gaps in it, so you know we do get some weeds on these, but as you can see, pretty easy to take care of. Again, I've mentioned it a couple of times, square foot gardening is the way to go. Typically, over the course of a week, I might spend an hour out here weeding and picking off bugs. That's across the entire garden. So you're talking like 10 minutes a day, maybe, on a bad day. Oh, before I walk too far, I want to show you I've got a volunteer, I don't know if it's a regular potato or a sweet potato, but a potato of some variety growing in my compost bin. I'm going to guess it's a sweet potato because I don't remember the last time we had regular potatoes. We don't eat them very often, so I'm hoping it's a sweet potato. We'll see if we can get anything out of that. All right, more Brussels sprouts. Here's our herb bed. It's doing okay. I haven't really given it a whole lot of time. Most of these plants take a while to get root and really take off. Parsley is actually going to seed, so it's actually a second year parsley, which I didn't realize, but that's okay. The sage looks pretty good. Rosemary, this is definitely looking good, so I'm excited about that. This is an herb we use pretty often. Over here, look at the eggplant. Man, these things are just, they are beautiful. That dark stem color and the big green leaves, and this is the plant that if you're going to have a bug problem, eggplants, the first thing they target. Potato bugs will go after eggplants before they go after potato plants. For some reason, these things are just tasty for everybody, so the fact that they look so good is awesome. Our peppers, if you actually look back when I first planted these, I got these from a greenhouse, got them cheap because I bought them at the end of the season, and they already had a couple little tiny peppers on them. I cut those off. I wanted it to invest its energy into growing leaves and getting bigger and stronger. This one looks great, and I think that one's going to produce pretty well. It already has a couple of buds coming for some new blossoms, but this one, the top part of it here, kind of looks dead and drab and not doing so well, and you can see it's getting really green at the bottom, so I have to keep an eye, see if that ends up doing anything. Here are tomatoes. No actual tomatoes yet, but lots of blossoms. They're all doing really well. They're starting to outgrow their cages. These are 4-foot cages, and it's growing out the top. And our basil, down there at the bottom, we have basil in every corner. So that's doing really well. Time to start making some pesto. And then this is probably the most amazing growth. When we left for vacation, these plants were about a quarter of the size they are now. But look at those zucchini. In the past, I've had a really hard time getting good zucchini plants. The last 2 years, I've just bought the seedlings, and instead of growing them myself, just because I had a limited amount of space to grow seedlings, and they always had blight, this white blight that covers the leaves and kills the leaves off, and eventually the plant dies. So this year I planted them myself, same thing with the cucumbers, and so far I'm really happy with how that's looking. Same thing on these as I had with the peppers. When they were really small, not much bigger than my hand, these plants started putting out blossoms, and I had to keep coming out every couple of days and pick off the blossoms because I didn't want it to be putting the energy into the fruit yet. If it had tried to grow zucchini that young, it would have just probably grown one zucchini, and then the plant would have been out of energy and would have died, and that's all it would have gotten. So I had to really encourage it to wait until the plants are this size. And then our cucumbers, that's our first one that I'm going to be picking probably in another 2 days or so, 2 or 3 days. Hopefully the camera's adjusting for that, but you can see right there, pretty decent sized cucumber started. So that's good. I have lots of blossoms right now, so more are coming. This bed is currently empty. It's the one that had spinach in it. I'm not sure what I'm going to plant in it next. I'll probably either do another planting of spinach later in the season, or I'll do some sugar snap peas in it for the fall. And then here are our carrots. I did go through and fill in the gaps with second planting on these, but for some reason, most of them, you can see there's a little one that came up, another little one that came up. So some of them did come up, but for some reason there are still gaps, and at this point I'm just kind of letting them go. So we'll have two plantings. You can see that the bases of these things are doing really well, nice and hardy. These are going to be some really good carrots. Can't wait for those first year growing carrot plants here. So, all right, there's the garden summary. I guess actually one more thing I'll point out is, should I show you guys my sunflowers? So this is a mixture of 2 different varieties. Every other plant, so like this one and then that one, those are Russian mammoths. And then the ones in between are a smaller variety that put out multiple small sunflower heads. So these things are doing well. Had a hard time getting them to start. You can obviously tell the couple of big plants are the first planting that held on and are doing well, and then some of them died off, and I had to do 2 more plantings to get everything to take root, but it's doing well now. think that's it. If I think of anything else, I'll post another update. Feel free to comment if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.